Hopelessly Sustained, Chapter 1, Segment 4. You know, I never thought of this before this exact moment, but I think I have another really good idea. That's what I like about writing. Things just come to you. You never thought of them before, but there they are when you write. This really is a good idea, and I just now thought of it. I think we can all agree that all boys like to look at pretty girls, and all pretty girls are afraid of what those boys will do. You think that's right? I do. So if I was an English teacher, I'd do something really neat. Oh yeah, I really don't want to be in school any more than I have to, but I also realize as an adult you got to have a job of some kind. So since I'd have to be doing something to earn a living, why not be an English teacher? Because I like to write, but not like English teachers tell you to write. But see, if I was an English teacher, I could tell my students to digress so you don't gyp your readers and all that jazz. And I could also help kids. I really like teachers who help kids. You know, Mr. Lindsay is a very helpful teacher. Too bad he teaches biology, because that really isn't my bag, but he sure was helpful. I like Mr. Lindsay, even if I don't like biology. I could really digress on Mr. Lindsay, but I won't, because I still have that really good idea to tell you about. So if I was an English teacher, and English is so important that you have to take it every semester of every year, and there's all kinds of English classes. So here's what I could do. I'd teach creative writing and American literature, because I'd love to teach kids to love John Steinbeck and J.D. Salinger, because they're really cool. But since I'd be an English teacher, and there's so many different English classes, I'd also teach a class called Communications. And in my communications class, I know how I'd open up on the very first day. I'd say, thank you for taking my class, because we're really going to have fun. Since this class is about communicating, let's learn to communicate. Every day in this class, we're going to learn to communicate with the opposite sex. Everyone knows that it's sometimes hard to communicate with the opposite sex. So in this class, we're going to learn how. Yeah, that'd be pretty cool. So then I'd go on and say every day each boy is going to be with a different girl, and you're going to push your desks together and communicate. Then I'd say, that may be hard for some people, and you wouldn't know what to say, so I'm going to help you. Each boy is going to be with a different girl every day, and each boy and each girl is going to have a copy of Salinger's The Catcher in the Rye. So the girl will read the first page out loud, and the boy will read the second page out loud. And then you talk, and then you tell what you like, and you laugh, and you enjoy each other. And here's the really cool part. Here's how I'm going to grade you. There'll never be a test. Your entire grade will be given on how much fun you have with your partner. And no, I'm not going to turn the lights out or anything like that. I mean how much enjoyable conversation you have with one another. See, that's what communication is all about. Then I would say, I'm a really good judge on reading body language. I'd be the teacher, so I could say that. And remember, body language is also communication. Remember, class, 85% of what you're saying ain't coming out of your mouth. So I'll watch you and see how much true, enjoyable communication you're having with each other. I can tell if you're real or if you're just faking it, and I'll grade you on how much fun you have together. Yeah, that'd be like the coolest thing ever. Think if that could really happen. And think how happy every boy would be when they know tomorrow their day to sit with Jody Street. But that's not all. You'd also enjoy the day you're going to be with Karen Bridges. See, Karen is really plain, and she doesn't dress real good, and she doesn't have many friends. But see, if I was the English teacher, everyone would have to communicate with every single person in the class throughout the semester. So think how cool that'd be the day Karen gets to sit with Robbie. Man, I bet she wouldn't sleep the whole night before. But you see, kids are really stupid, and I can say that because I'm really still a kid. But kids don't want to do the uncool thing and be with the wrong person. But in my class, everyone would have to be with everyone else. And you just have fun. See, even if kids are stupid, if the teacher tells them to do it, they usually do it. And it would be very good for everyone, especially for Karen. Man, that really makes me want to finish school if I could be an English teacher. And it'd be so much better than how Mr. Johnson teaches. I got to tell you, we read some pretty cool stuff in his class, though, especially when we read Steinbeck's Of Mice and Men. That is a good book. But you know how kids are. Don't want to learn, don't like to read the material. They really don't. But see, Mr. Johnson did one really good thing in his class. He had us read it out loud. That is really the way to get the most out of many books, to read them out loud. So Mr. Johnson would read a few pages, and then to keep us all paying attention, then each of us would take a turn reading out loud. You should have heard Robbie read. He had that voice, and he knew how to enunciate. Too bad Mr. Johnson didn't grade on how well he could read out loud, because then Robbie would have gotten an A. But anyway, since we did all the reading in class, wouldn't you know it, old man Johnson would have to give us some homework, and he would have us write papers on what we read and the deep meaning in the story. Oh, I hope you've read that book. If you haven't, you better do it soon. See, it's about two guys, and one guy is a simpleton, and he has to be with George all the time. George has the smarts. But anyway, they have a dream. And that dream is owning their own place and living off the fat of the land. And it was so cool because Lenny, he's the simpleton. He liked to hear it again and again. And he especially liked hearing about the rabbits, because he'd feed the rabbits and take care of them. And that really made him happy. And you got happy hearing how happy Lenny was when George told the story again. So they have a dream, and they're going to own their own place and be their own bosses. And it was a good dream, it really was. I think we should all have a dream like that because it made them so happy. But anyway, when we finished reading the book out loud, Mr. Johnson gave us one final paper to write on Of Mice and Men. Here was his exact assignment. He said, write a 1,000-word essay on the significance of the dream. I had fun with that paper, and I actually had 1,441 words because it was really fun to write about. But guess what Robbie wrote? I memorized it because it was so good. Are you ready? I can even quote it from memory. Here it is in its entirety. You remember the assignment? Tell the significance of the dream. Robbie wrote, it sustained them. That was so cool because that's exactly what it did. It sustained them. It kept them going. It gave them hope. But Robbie had a way with words. He hit the nail on the head, and it didn't take him no 1,000 words. He could do it in 3. And I have to say he nailed it. But again, Robbie got an F. I remember what he said when Mr. Johnson handed back the test. Robbie said, an F? How come? He didn't get mad or nothing. He just stood up in the class and said, Mr. Johnson, you're a phony, and you don't like me because I don't do things your way. And you don't even pay attention to what you actually teach. I remember when you had us working on vocabulary words. You said, students, it does a person well to have a large vocabulary because when you can select the correct word, that one word paints a picture. And remember what they say, a picture's worth 1,000 words. That's what you said, Mr. Johnson, and I used your advice and got an F for it. Well, F is for fuck Johnson, and he sat down. He really said it just like that, and it was so good, and Mr. Johnson turned all red and didn't say a word, and Robbie's a renegade, but he's really, really smart. But he still got an F.